And here we go with episode 5 of the Mike Spot podcast. I'm Chris, senior producer and lead designer of 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling.
And I'm Josh, quality assurance and associate designer for 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling.
And I'm Aaron, narrative designer for 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling.
That's right, fans. There is a third disembodied voice you're hearing this episode, and that is Aaron. Aaron's been working with us at Checkmate for a while. Actually, it's his, or in and around, his 5-year anniversary. Turns out he started way back in May of 2019, and that was just in time to start development on the original Modern Mania Wrestling. Big help creating that universe there.
That was a wild task.
That was a big one.
Yeah, good things come in threes for sure. Yeah, thanks for being here, Aaron. It's good to have you here.
Absolutely. Thank you for including me. You guys have been up to a lot of fun stuff, and so I had to get in on it.
Aaron's actually experienced in the podcast game, more so experienced than Josh and I were, which is he's got his own thing going on. You want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. For the last 4 years or so, once the pandemic started, I've been doing a music podcast. We do artist interviews. It's called The Itch Rock Podcast. And we are at over 200 episodes going strong now, so I'm very proud of that and happy to add a little second podcast action to the game.
Right on, man. We're happy to add some professionalism to this outfit over here. So
yeah.
Hey, before we throw it to questions, I want to make sure that everyone sticks around to the very end of the episode because we do have a final segment here that I think a lot of people are going to want to hear.
All right, and with all that, let's jump right into user questions. Aaron, I'm going to throw you into the fire. Can you read off that first one?
All right. Alex4544 asks, so any thought of maybe a Wrestling Mania 2K, dealing with the era right up to 2015 maybe? Yeah, timeline expansion to fill that game space between 80s and modern timelines is definitely something that we are interested in exploring, for sure.
All right, and next question, it's from Prashan. He says, Secondary Fed is not allowing despite having 50-plus wrestlers. If I choose a New Game Plus, will it erase all my data and cards released so far? First of all, New Game Plus, no. It will not erase your data. If you're connected to your Game Center account or your Google Play account, New Game Plus will start. You will keep your cards.
Cards, cash, currency, tokens, any upgrades you've done to your characters, all that stuff stays. The only thing that refreshes on New Game Plus is your Fed history.
Exactly, yeah. And on that note of your secondary Fed not allowing, despite having 50-plus wrestlers, to start a second Fed, you need to allot some ladies, some cruisers. It actually says it on the bottom of that roster management screen, like a countdown of all the wrestlers you need. So keep an eye out for that when making a second Fed, for sure.
All right, SciTech Nerd. Hello again, Chris and Josh. Hello, SciTech Nerd. All right, they are asking about the reassigning of titles. Swap titles out, or I guess, edit titles in general, or the way they work, or change things up. Yeah, I would just put that in the category with most suggestions that we see here and everywhere. It's likely something that we've thought about or that we're interested in doing. So this is definitely one of those things. So
yeah, and thanks for the recommendation because it kind of pushes those ideas along when we see feedback from the community. So
definitely.
SciTech Nerd, I appreciate your question. Next question from Zcass. Want to give you guys and the whole dev team a hand for doing such a great job. Thanks so much, Zcass. I feel like we've seen your name in the comments a few times, and thanks a lot for being a long-standing community member. It's great to have you.
Chalkbody Outline pleads, please let me reorder the entire card. First off, Chalkbody Outline sounds like a great hardcore band name. Second, that feature actually does exist in our 2.0 engine, which is currently Modern Mania Wrestling GM. So, if that's the thing that you want and you're playing 80s perhaps, check out Modern as well.
Right on. Pedro says that there should be a way to export game history. The answer that we've given before, and then I'm sadly going to give again, is, if you're playing on your device, it's a real good utilization of like taking screenshots. I mean, I know it's not the greatest answer, but you could screen cap like all the stuff and, have a nice folder of images that is, in a way, your game history exported. So, sorry if that's not the answer that everyone might want. So
yeah, I've spent hours and hours writing out my own Fed history, so Screenshots help a lot. I still do. I screenshot all my 5-star matches. So to me, that's a good way to keep around that history.
Yakuza Bobbins brings up something that we love, which is the 80s Mania Wrestling wiki page, noting that it's slightly behind and needs some correction on points. And first of all, again, we love the wiki page, and we're so glad that it exists. It's a great and helpful tool for players. But we aren't actually involved whatsoever with it. All the contributions on that page are made by community members. So to kind of echo what Dom Hansen replied in the comments, if something is missing or inaccurate, we encourage anyone who's eligible to get in and help out, tighten stuff up, clean things up. We appreciate it, and the community definitely does too.
All right, and next up, we've got Revan the Legend, and he is coming in with his usual Zen stuff, and he's wondering about a Zen alt ever. Gotta stay tuned. You know the rules. All right, so for Modern Mania, this is actually a really cool point that he's bringing up. We have a quick add feature in the Modern Mania GM game, right? And that's on a segment that you're booking. You'll just have like a row of headshots of wrestlers that are randomized, okay, that you can quickly tap on and quick add. It's just a quality of life feature that exists in GM that doesn't exist in 80s. Revan's mentioning that sometimes it'll be like a few of the headshots will be the same character, like different gimmicks or whatever. And I think he's basically saying, let's make that not happen. Like, let's make better usage of these quick add spots. And I would say that, yeah, definitely. I think unless there's reasons that we're not thinking of, this seems like a smart quality of life thing. So it's on our list. Let's put it that way. So thanks for the heads up, Revan. All right. And then we've got All the World is Kayfabe 209. And they say, I need more factions. Let me pay you more for more. So here's a simple answer for this one. If you guys want more factions, like, let us know, kind of chime in, hop in the comments, and just go ahead and request that, because we can add that, right? We need to know how the community kind of as a whole is feeling. If you guys feel like you need more custom faction slots, let us know and we'll add them.
Yeah, great. Next question from Robert Chapman. I would like to be able to range the wrestlers by most wins or losses, time since last match, etc., instead of just alphabetical. So you're probably talking about 80s Mania Wrestling, because in Modern you can actually sort by win percentage. That was something we added in the past. More sorting options likely to come in the future. That was a big success. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for those.
Michael Baker says, I need more titles in the 80s, like the US and the US tag titles, a unified title, maybe a create a title option, also women's tag titles. Michael, these suggestions are all definitely understood. The more and diversified titles is something that comes up a lot. We are definitely aware of it, and I think that there's any number of different directions that it could go into how we handle that. But we agree, so definitely stay tuned.
Super Mario comes in and says, it feels like icons are more of a debuff than a character. Now, Super Mario's talking about 80s Mania characters appearing in Modern Mania, and we call them icons in that case. So, about icons. Icons have like two roles in Modern Mania GM. They are available as non-wrestlers, so they can influence a match in, certain ways, like skill bonuses and push bonuses and stuff like that, like Arizona Chance is a trainer. There's 8 of them. For each of those icon non-wrestler cards, once you purchase them and you own them in your collection, there's a little second tab, a wrestler tab. And then you can pay some gimmick tokens to unlock their wrestler versions. So that does seem to be one of those features in Modern Mania that remains unclear. There is some information about it on the tip screen, so check that out.
Next question from MFZ 2012. Possible to have triple threat or fatal 4-way matches in Modern Mania GM? Yeah, they are actually in the game. A couple of the pay-per-view selections actually result in those matches being auto-populated on the card. But if you buy extra segments, you can add triple threats, fatal 4-ways, and a bunch of other match types just on into any show, So if you buy that open bonus segment, you can add those right away. So yeah, have fun with those. And with that, I think that's our last question. Let's take to a commercial break, and then we'll jump right into 80s Mania.
If wrestling got a hold on you, here's what you gotta do. Bring home home all the action. You'll get more satisfaction when you bring home all the action. Get a grip, get a lock, get a hold on everyone. You'll have all the thrills, all the fun. Bring home all the action.
And now the WWF Superstar.
Bring home all the action.
From LJN.
All right, we're back. Chris, tell us what's been going on in 80s Mania.
Yes, sir. 80s Mania, this previous update, introduced everyone to Bullwhip Bart. Bullwhip Bart. He is a character who we all agreed could be added to the early 80s part of the roster and have that kind of really old school flavor, right? And associate with some characters that needed some things to do, like namely Geppetto Rocco, right? Enormous Pierre, that's the good guy version of Pierre. Those guys needed some things to do, and we liked the idea of, this type of rough and rowdy outlaw bad guy. Because if you look at that era of wrestling, like real life wrestling, there was tons of guys like that. I mean, there's just like a whole bunch of guys kind of running the exact same gimmick. They even like looked similar, but that's not to say they weren't all super unique and cool in their own right and had their own, histories in their own way. But you know what we like to do over here? We like to mash things up, right? Totally. So it was funny the day we promoted Bullwhip, the amount of different sort of guesses as to who the inspiration was for this one was kind of cool because there was just so many, and it's basically like all those things were influences on Bullwhip. Yeah, so it's good to have him in there. I think he brings some. Not only does he bring feuds with some of the guys I mentioned earlier, but this was kind of like something that we didn't even really think about going into it, or at least I didn't. When we thought about mapping him out, turns out he was, a happy accident where it's like, oh, he's actually kind of bolstering the tag division in the early 80s too. And he lasts all the way to 99, right? So started with one sort of simple seed for an idea, and by the time we were done producing this guy, it turns out he's just like a really nice fit. He like really kind of helps the game a bunch. So happy to have him.
Yeah, really nice fit. Lots of great feuds and tags. And, as a Texan myself, it's nice to have another big bad Texan in the game. So, big win there for me.
Heck yeah.
All right. And with that, let's jump into Modern Mania. We had a big release. We dropped 3 characters. In the 80s, old Zombie Punk was he was a jobber. I don't know about in your feds, but for me, he was a definitive jobber. But in Modern, we got Ziggy Thrash.
Ziggy Thrash!
And we wanted to give him a little something extra and push him up the card a little bit, make him have a little bit more importance. So we decided to give him that rework. Maybe merge him in with a little bit of real life influences. Just give him kind of like a more fleshed out idea through his 4 alts. And man, I gotta say, he's been a big help in my Cruiserweight division for sure. He's been awesome. We got a new artist, James Diato, and, a lot of his work is based on comic books, video games. So we thought a nice way to introduce him to our universe were 2 characters that were kind of a little bit more up his alley, maybe a little bit more outside the box, not wrestler types, a ninja, an army guy.
Shadow.
A mobster.
Ice Pick Dominic.
Ice Pick and Shadow, there was tons of stuff to do. So definitely within his wheelhouse, and the results were just amazing. They speak for themselves. Probably the most well-received reworks art-wise that we've ever done, And I saw some comments, why Shadow? Why Slapstick? And like one of the biggest things is that we wanted to go back to some pop culture, and for us, Shadow and Slapstick are 2 of our favorites. We also were intrigued to rework that feud. They have a feud together, and so we decided to take it up a notch and make it our first Modern Mania 2-star feud. That last laugh feud, it really stands out as this true, definitive, epic feud now, I think.
If I can pull back the curtain a little bit, at least on my own feelings, I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit nervous when we started talking about reworking Ice Pick in particular. I got a fondness for that guy. But the further the further, and a lot of players do as well, rightfully so. The further the development went of both of these guys kind of in tandem, the more exciting it became. And when we saw the final product that we had put together, I was like, oh yeah, this was definitely worth it. This was definitely a level up. So very excited to give these guys even more prominent spot within the game.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, Chris, I think we wanted to go to the shout out. Did you pick anyone in particular this week, or?
We got somebody,
Perfect.
and this is someone who stands out in the best of ways. This is someone who I'm always happy to see their latest posting and stuff, and that's David O'Hanlon. David, we always enjoy reading your posts on, I think it's mostly the Facebook fan page. You post thought-provoking conversation starters because it seems like you really embrace our universe of characters, our lore. You're sort of quick to get topics out there for people to discuss, and we appreciate that kind of stuff. A recent example we just saw, I think it was a day ago. You mentioned, I've been working on a playlist for the gym inspired by the characters and tag teams of the game. Now, that's super cool, right? So that immediately just gets the creative juices flowing, gets people talking, and just kind of puts a smile on my face to think about the game being a part of people's lives that way, and the creative, fun stuff that we all just kind of enjoy together. So appreciate you as a community member doing that kind of stuff. And, when we post updates or teasers or promos or any of that kind of stuff, and, we see a lot of familiar community members chime in, sometimes you'll come in and you'll say something like, so whether it be intuitive or accurate or whatever it may be, like I said, we get a kick out of it. In fact, Josh said that he even suspects sometimes, or he used to at least, he suspected that it was me or Aaron's burner account on there, dropping hints or whatever.
I'm still not convinced. David. I'll believe it when I see it.
Right. I swear it's not me. David is his own person, and we do appreciate him very much. And yeah.
So this month we wanted to end with a little special closing segment. Chris, how do you want to do this one?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. I don't know how to exactly phrase this news drop here, but I was telling the fellas here before we started recording that I think we ought to include this little tidbit on this episode because it feels like the time's right. And I'll go ahead and say this much. You guys know us. We're constantly kind of letting you guys know that, hey, wait till next week because this promo's happening. Wait till next month because this feature's coming, or whatever it may be. So in keeping with that trend of always having something to tease or promo, and always trying to just kind of let you know a little bit of what to expect ahead, but not too much. So we've been working on something, I would say heavily, actually, for the last few months, and steadily for maybe even a couple years, at least conceptually here. So we're working on something new and old, and indeed it is a new game that we're working on. Now, if you're able to, as a listener of this podcast or someone who's in tune with our little hints, you could probably make an educated guess as to what this game might be. Although we're not going to confirm anything at this moment. If you could make a guess, I'd say there's a chance you're probably onto something.
Yeah, big news there, Chris. As someone who's seen a little bit under the hood, has seen kind of the stuff that's coming, as a fan, I am stoked. So I can't wait for everyone to see it.
Absolutely. It'll be worth the wait.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's actually going to be something pretty special when it's all said and done. So for now, we're just going to keep on working on it. And as always,
if you're down for more mic spots,
stay tuned.
Are you a fan of Checkmate creative content? The most impactful way to show your support is by leaving our games 5-star ratings on Google Play and the App Store. That ensures we keep making more of the content you love and games you want to play. Following both 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling on Instagram, X, and Facebook is the best way to stay up to date with our latest news and character reveals. We invite you to share any and all feedback about your playing experience directly with us at support@80smaniawrestling.com or support@modernmaniawrestling.com.
This has been a Checkmate Creative production.